Hi everyone, Sandman here. Today's video is brought to you by a donation from Neil, and he didn't have a specific topic that he wants me to cover, so I'm going to cover something I'd like to call pornhibition. In the late 20th and early 21st century, we've now seen the explosion of online adult content, and with it we've also seen growth in MGTOW. And I now want to explore the idea of how adult imagery is influencing men, and what banning pornography would do to MGTOW. MGTOW generally grew in tandem with the proliferation of free graphic imagery in online video, and it gave men options that we've never had before to relieve our frustrations. But now countries such as Russia, England, Iceland, Australia, and even South Korea have either restricted or banned online adult material, or they're actually thinking about it. Russia has now joined China and most of the Muslim world in banning adult materials over the internet. And I can't believe that South Korea has also completely banned it as well. Russia is closing hundreds of adult entertainment websites and banning other ones from even entering the country. Iceland has also banned all adult printed publications and closed down all strip clubs, and is even thinking about banning all adult online content. But in places like the United States, things seem to be heading in the opposite direction, because now Oculus Rift has a relatively firm release date for the winter of 2015, probably just in time for Christmas. And you can now just imagine how the entire adult entertainment industry is going to have a resurgence with virtual cams and films shot in 3D Matrix-style videos. Facebook owns the technology, and its stock will probably erect itself further if they can come to market first, no pun intended. I know the line is pretty cheesy, but I just couldn't help myself. America, it seems, is moving full steam ahead to enable ever greater adult expression, and I can't wait for Oculus Rift in late 2015. Adult entertainment is about to go through a major renaissance in one part of the world, while the other part of the world tries to ban it outright. Right now, with Oculus Rift, all you can get is the developer's kit, which is 1080p, but the new consumer version might actually be 4K. And at such high resolutions on a small headset, it will probably look more real than the real thing. You'll be able to see every single pore on a person's face in stunning detail. And even Sony is planning to release their VR technology called Project Morpheus. HTC has Valve, and Microsoft is currently developing its own HoloLens technology. This is the next revolution in computing and pornography, and it's always the first thing that changes with regards to technology. But at the same time, porn is now being banned in places like South Korea, the land of the Samsung. I'm adding an article from USA Today in the description below talking about what's happening in South Korea, and here's an excerpt from that article. Moon Tai-hao is among the first successful members of the Nuri Cops, roughly called Net Cops, a squad of nearly 800 volunteers who help government censors by patrolling the internet for pornography in their spare time. Unlike most developed nations, pornography is illegal in South Korea, though it remains easy for its tech-savvy population to find. More than 90% of South Korea's homes have high-speed internet access, and more than 30 million of its 50 million people own smartphones. It's like shoveling snow in a blizzard, Moon conceded. But while there's no chance of the government will wipe out porn, it also shows no sign of giving up the fight. In fact, it has responded to several recent high-profile sex crimes with a fresh crackdown. So there you have it, folks. If some countries in the world are trying to eradicate adult entertainment, then what makes you think that yours won't? And if men refuse to marry and procreate in the future, forget a possible bachelor tax. Instead, banning pornography would probably be a win-win for feminists as well as the government. Ironically, the violent crimes rate goes up because men have less outlets for their frustration, and that would only fuel the fires of feminism. You see, if adult content was banned in a particular place, and violence rose against women, then this would just give the state and feminists more reasons to take away more rights from men. And without pornography, the birth rates will probably go up as well, because we men, again, have less of an alternative for our sexuality. But it probably still wouldn't rise as far or as fast as the government would probably want it to. And if it's true that pornography is the main factor reducing the population of advanced first world and second world nations, then why are places where it's banned, such as the Middle East, seeing their own birth rates cut to almost a third in some countries over the last 40 to 50 years? A combination of feminism, working women, and women having control over their own reproductive rights and contraception is actually the main factor regarding the decline in birth rates. Women's liberation and feminism is truly what's responsible for less babies, but again, it'll probably be blamed on men at some point like everything else is. In my research, I've also been surprised to learn about how adult material is controlled in Australia. In the Australian capital region of Canberra, as well as the Northern Territory, it's perfectly legal to sell, exhibit, or even rent X-rated materials. But anywhere else you can only own them, but you can't really purchase them. So that basically means you can own them, but you can't buy them. That's like telling people it's perfectly legal to eat food, but you make the sale of food completely illegal. It's completely insane. Or that you're allowing people to drive, but if you purchase a car and do so, that's considered an illegal act. But so far there really hasn't been any regulation of the online pornography business in the land down under. Then you have places such as England, which has recently put restrictions on producing and consuming certain types of adult material. And I also found many places online where women were debating if they should ban pornography because it's degrading to women. On debate.org, which I'm adding in the description below, you can see the same stupid feminist talk that we should ban it because it dehumanizes women and turns them into objects. And then there's always the argument that it destroys families as well. But last time I checked, it was women that initiated divorces in most cases. And saying that porn destroys families is a sneaky attempt to shame and blame men. The votes on that site are currently 78 to 28 for banning pornography. I think that eventually if birth rates continue to fall the way they have, and men aren't getting into marriages and relationships, then women will probably vote in political candidates that'll attempt to take adult content away. And the government will also see it as a beneficial thing to do in order to boost population growth, so it can tax the young to pay for the social services of the old. On debate.org, I also read some really irrational arguments, such as adult materials turn women into slaves. But I don't see how a woman getting thousands of dollars to record herself on video, of her own free will, is considered enslavement. That's like a woman saying that food companies are responsible for making her fat, because she chose to purchase and eat the food in the first place. I wish someone would pay me to be a slave as well. It's just feminist doublespeak at its finest. With regards to my own life, I sometimes feel like I've actually had a better relationship with adult content than with my ex-girlfriends. I grew up viewing GIF files of bikini-clad women on my 286 that I downloaded from a BBS, which was often my favorite pastime. I also spent a lot of time descrambling C-band and Q-band satellite signals for adult channels. I couldn't imagine growing up with the way the internet is today. And if I was growing up today, and in high school, and Oculus Rift came out, I don't think I'd want to date any high school girls anymore. And the exact same thing is happening in Japan. Let's all wait and see what happens in 8 months when every single boy in America wants an Oculus Rift under their Christmas tree. We are on the verge of a new revolution when it comes to male sexuality in North America and Europe, and it won't be helping the birth rates either. But on the other parts of the world, such as Russia, China, and South Korea, they're going in the completely opposite direction. And it's not going to help bring up the birth rates either. The truth is that even if adult material is banned, men will still go on the internet and find loopholes around the laws, and use whatever encryption technology they can to keep their behavior secret. If you compare it to a drug, then think about it this way. Pornography is free, it's instantaneously accessible at any point on the earth, and socially acceptable in most Western countries. But if we compare it to dating a woman, women are as addicting as we all know, but we also have to work to feed that addiction. We have to spend money, risk and ruin our financial futures to receive intimacy on a regular basis. Sure, the two are not exactly the same thing, and that being with someone in real life actually releases chemicals that you won't get when you're looking at adult content. But it's enough to tie most men over and keep us sane. And more importantly, it keeps us from pursuing detrimental relationships. Men have done a cost-benefit analysis and have realized that fapping is more freeing than actually being in a relationship. And in the end, it's going to hurt feminists because men now have the option to get satisfied for free instead of dealing with nagging women. The governments will also be hurt because they'll lose new citizens in order to feed the marriage meat grinder as well as the tax base. But in Western countries where pornography will probably stay legal, we'll probably use increased immigration to grow the population base instead of clamping down and creating pornhibition. Adult materials will not become illegal in the United States and Canada because the cable, internet companies, as well as Facebook through Oculus Rift are going to own the hardware to get it into your house and in front of your eyeballs. Rising stock prices and increased corporate profits will continue to drive it. So the lobby for it is much bigger in America than the lobby against. So money talks, and feminists simply don't have enough of it to stop the industry because the industry makes too much money for many companies. As for Russia banning adult materials, somewhere in his grave, Larry Flint is now turning over, hearing about the ban on adult materials. Oh wait, he's still alive. But I'm still pretty sure that he's not happy about what's happening. But I still think that at some point governments will point to Oculus Rift and the internet and say, look, this is why our birth rates are falling. And this is why men aren't marrying and paying their taxes. We need to put a stop to this and wipe out the technologies that are wiping out the population and creating alternatives to being with a real-life human being. That's what the governments will probably say, and feminists will be on their side. But in reality, feminism, birth control, and working women riding the carousel are responsible for the declining birth rates. So now I'm getting ready to go out and purchase more Facebook stock because I know they'll probably be making a fortune as soon as Oculus Rift is released. But don't listen to my financial advice. Do your due diligence instead. Anyways, that's it for today's video. Thank you, Neil, for your donation. And as for everyone else, please like me on Facebook or follow me on Twitter to get tomorrow's video today. Thanks for taking your daily dose of red pills. So enjoy the rest of your day, and cheers.